Hello children, welcome to first PUC economics class. I am Suma, economics lecturer, Gopalswamy PU College, Mysuru. In today's session of the 7th lesson of employment, let us discuss about the topic of workforce. So, in our previous session, we learned about the people's participation. How many people are participating in the work or in the employment structure, and what is the contribution of all these primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector. So, now let us see about the difference between labor force and workforce. All have heard about this word, that is labor supply. Labor supply is nothing but the availability of the labor according to the existing wage rates. The people who are ready to work for the existing wage rates, they are called as the labor force, and whenever there is a need, they are called to work and they will be given a sort of wage payment. So, the labor supply is always corresponding to the wage rate. It is always measured in terms of the man days of work. So, for so and so many days of work, for so and so amount is paid as wage. If a person is earning 500 rupees for 1 day's work, and if he is offered 2000 rupees for 1 day's work, then he quits that other job, other work where he was getting only 500, and he will switch over to the job or work where he is offered rupees 2000. So, he thinks that he will exert additional labor and he will earn some more money, and then in any other day if he did not get work, he can take rest. So, it is not in the case of labor force. The labor force is who are willing and eager to work, that group of person, that group of population who are willing and eager to work. It is not related to variety wage rates. Here it is dependent on wage rate. If a person is offered with additional income for the same time period, he can shift to that work. But here it is not related to variety wage rates. Here he is always willing and eager to work. So this group of person is always willing and they are eager to work if an opportunity is provided and for some wage payment. So now let us see about the workforce. Workforce are those who are already involved in work. They are really doing the work. That portion of population is called as workforce. So the workforce does not include the number of persons who are willing to work. Here in the labor force, you have seen that here are the group of persons who are willing and eager to work. But in the workforce, there is no group of persons. It does not include the number of persons who are willing to work. The willingness, eagerness is not considered here, but the persons who are really involved into work. Here, the people's participation rate can be calculated as follows. The total workforce does not include the people who are willing to work, but it includes who are already in work. So, the total workforce divided by total population multiplied by 100, we obtain the people's participation rate. So now let's see about the size of workforce at present in our country. The size of workforce in our country at present is the contribution of males to the existing workforce is 70% and females is 30%. And the urban population who are involved in the workforce is only 30%, and the rural population who are involved in the workforce is 70%. The overall participation is just 50.3%. So, you can assume half of the population is still dependent on somebody for their life. So, now let us see the participation of male and female in urban areas. In urban areas, 60% of the male take part in the work and females are only 16.2%. 2%, as well as in the rural areas the number is more. The male who are into work are 77.3%, as well as the female who have involved themselves in work 26.7%. Again, why there is more workforce available in rural area means in the rural area people are ready to work for any amount of wages, and it is because they are not having education and skill, but they want to earn their livelihood, and therefore they are ready to accept any kind of work as well as for any amount of payment. Again, in the rural areas the number of people's participation in the workforce is more, but the productivity is very low. In the case of rural areas, women participation in the workforce is again more, but the number of women working in the urban areas is less. This is because in the rural areas again women are also ready to go for work to earn their livelihood, and because they are not updated and they are not having proper education and skill, they are ready to go for any kind of job that is offered for lesser payment, and they earn the daily wages. Let us see about the situation of the self-employed people and the hired workers. 37.9% self-employed workers are found in urban areas, and 45.7% self-employed workers are found in rural areas, wherein the male participation in the self-employment is 48.4% and the female participation in the self-employment is 39.9%. That is, when we come to the self-employment, people, those who are in the urban areas are not having self-employment and they are dependent on any other factory, organization or government sector or the private sector, wherein in the rural areas 45.7% of the population are involved with self-employment because they have their own small pieces of land. Small and marginal landholders are there in the rural areas, and they don't wish to go anywhere outside of their land for job and in search of work, and therefore their number is more. And also the male section, and also 48.4% of males are involved in the self-employment activity. In this urban section, 39.9% of females are having the self-employment, are involved in the self-employed section. So this is again because here in the rural areas they have their traditional activities as well as the agricultural and allied activities, and therefore the rural female are involved here only lesser percent. So now let us see the situation of hired workers, that is those who are going for job. The hired workers in the urban areas are 62.1% and in the rural areas are 54.3%. The rural folk will be engaged in contract basis with some contractor, and they work for the contract and they work for even the daily wages. The male sector who are involved with higher worker section is 51.6%, and the female sector the male section who have involved themselves in the higher working sector are only 51.6%, and the female section who have involved themselves in the higher working sector is 60.1%. So females usually wish to engage in any one or the other activity so that they can help the income of their family to improve. So now let us see about the contribution of these three sectors. Now let us see about the contribution of the three major sectors, and they are primary sector, secondary sector and tertiary sector. The primary sector contributes. Primary sector, as you all know, is involved with the natural resources, and it has all the jobs, all kinds of jobs that are involved with natural resources. And secondary sector is conversion of raw materials into finished products, and here the tertiary sector has service industries. So the primary sector contributes 46% of workforce. Secondary sector contributes to the workforce for 21.8% and tertiary sector contributes to the workforce for 52%. So again, in the primary sector, rural population is involved for 58.5% and in the urban areas, the primary sector catches only 7.8% of the population. Here in the secondary sector, rural population involved is 19.5% as well as in the urban areas it is 28.9%, because you all know that the setup of industries are found in urban areas, that is the secondary sector, and in the urban areas which has more industries related to secondary sector, and the population is more which are involved with this secondary sector. And in the tertiary sector you can find in the rural sector only 22%, wherein in the urban areas 63.3%, because in the rural areas there are no opportunity for providing the services, and therefore in the rural areas the tertiary sector gets only 22% of the population for its work, and wherein in the urban areas it is 63.3%, because the tertiary sector involves construction activities, banking, insurance, provision of education, health services and other allied activities, and therefore today a word called service providers. Today everywhere you can hear about the word service providing agencies, and all these service providing agencies are hiring more number of workers, and therefore today the tertiary sector is contributing more. Here you can see primary sector contributes only for 46%, secondary sector's contribution is just 21.8%, wherein the tertiary sector is contributing 50%, more than 50% to the GDP, and therefore today India is emerging as the new service provider to the country, as well as in terms of economy it is also improving its GDP. With this I conclude this session, children. Thank you for watching.